Hi everyone, this is John Sneisen from the Economic Truth Report, and you wonder what is going on? The Outernet. I actually thought it was a great idea to introduce you guys to, and this will be a special report, and I think it's special report number 6. This one will be, but I thought it was very important to get you guys introduced to a very, very, very cool project that we've been working on the last 4 or 5 months now. And I think it's probably one of the more revolutionary projects in the last couple of years now. And you might think like, oh, AI is, the greatest achievement of humankind. Well, I think like going back to something more decentralized in this world is better of achievement and making it work, because there's been a lot of people that have tried to make decentralized technology work. There's a few projects out there that are working hard on it currently, and we are one of it. And I want to introduce you to my good friend and partner here at Outernet, and it's James Cunnington. James, why don't you introduce yourself and tell a little bit of a history about yourself and how you got here, and then let's get into Outernet.
Well, I've been a programmer now most of my all my working life, and ever since I was 15, I got into web development. Then, I went down the rabbit hole of learning to do JavaScript and PHP, and then WordPress plugins, and all sorts of other interesting languages. That's sort of my history, and obviously, I've got before something comes out, a lot of programmers get to see things beforehand, so we get to see. We were looking at AI quite a long time ago, and was looking, and we even saw it in the phase when it was really awful, and thought this is never going to get anywhere. This is ridiculous. Watching it play basic games, and it just didn't know what to do, and then it just made this very very big leap, and it was all of a sudden able to take a lot away take away a lot of the effort of monotonous tasks and just do all that stuff that nobody likes doing. And to what it is to, and you see like sort of chat GPT today and people are like, wow, this is incredible. But obviously through my years of being a programmer, I've networked with a lot of other programmers, and we're just seeing this pattern of how bad the internet's getting. It started out as this project to help share scientific data, and then people started sharing all sorts of other things on there. And it goes it goes through these phases of, like, every technological advancement.
Yeah.
People don't like it, then it gets changed, then it gets good, then people take it too far, and then it comes back down, and then it's just the cycle of the way human beings are. They're always going to be the same, I'm afraid to say, but this is, and we see it with every phase of technology. But there's one user group on the internet that's taking their privilege way too far, and that's the central planners, the government, the agencies who sell out to them, all as they were always going to do. Certain entities on the internet come up with
Yeah,
very good.
I don't think we have to mention any of them. I think people are very
Don't have
aware
to,
of
no.
who they are.
Yeah, we don't have to name them. I was
Yeah.
just thinking, I was like, should I? Should I do it? I'm not going to be not going to be naming names because I don't have
Everybody
to.
knows. Yeah.
And what simply happens is people come out with these very good ideas, and then they sell out. And they sell out not themselves, but they sell out the customers. They sell out the data, the customers' data, the customers' privacy, and then all of a sudden it starts going down, and it starts going downhill from there. I'm trying to be polite, so we all know the cycle of the way things go. And then you get the sort of counterculture of it. We'll go, well, we're going to do the same idea, but we're not going to sell out. And like, yeah, you are. Some of them don't do it out of greed. Some of them do it out of fear, and we see the same pattern going on and on again. With Outernet, the technology that we're developing is we have no control over this. This is a fire and forget technology. So when it's released, people will be able to download our technology, use it, install it themselves, and we have no say over what they're doing. We can't switch them off. We can't build backdoors into it. We can't. It's going to be completely open source, so you can scrutinize the code yourself. You can build add-ons. And I remember showing you, John, the first time, and I remember the reaction was like, oh my, this is the government's worst
Yeah.
nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, when I suddenly got it there, I was like, I had like the holy smokes moment. And I got very, very excited. I always loved technology, but I do love decentralized and private technology, which is very rare these days. Unfortunately, there's very, very few. Even, like I use Signal and other things, but no, Signal was, basically created together with the CIA, and Incutel probably was involved in it. They're the venture capital firm. So if Incutel comes knocking on our door, we know what to do.
Yeah, we'll say, yeah,
Bye
we
bye.
don't know what to do either. We really embraced the spirit of what blockchain was with this, because
Yeah,
Satoshi Nakamoto just released a decentralized technology,
yeah.
and he, she, they, ze, whatever the name is, they will. Um, sorry, I couldn't help myself. Um, but have you seen the way Bitcoin's um proliferated? If you look at the way BitTorrent and all these other decentralized technologies have proliferated, there is an absolute appetite in the market for this, and we sort of want to get on that wave, because people are just the appetite comes from the fact that people are just fed up. They just are fed up of being, am I being listened to? And it's not as if somebody is listening to you. It's more than likely an AI robot that's listening to you just to get your
Yeah.
ad preferences. Right. I'm sure that's all they're interested in, is your ad preferences. But people are just fed up. They want to be able to have a private conversation in the living room, and at the same time be able to use their phone and the technology. And they shouldn't have to compromise. And at Outernet, that's what we're planning on. That's the wave we're planning on riding.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I had somebody actually asking me for, like, where's your privacy policy on your website? Like, what are you guys
Oh.
up to? And then I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm very sorry. Like, we didn't think of that because there is no privacy concerns. Like, basically, we will create one just for fun, but it will say like do not collect anything on anyone at any time.
No.
And that's basically it. It's a decentralized technology. The only way to be able to collect any data is basically getting a link that is the same, but then at the same time, you'll know that somebody is in the room with you. Like you
You can
can't get
email
away
us and
from it.
tell us
Yeah,
what you're up to. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
we're not going to be interested.
No,
We're not going to care. And
no,
we're more than
exactly.
likely delete.
Yeah, no, so
But
it's
really, we really don't want to know. The Outernet is actually a suite of technologies. The the most popular one at the moment is the direct video chat, where it uses a torrent to transfer those details. So if me and you were talking via Outernet chat, then it would just simply you'd go to a link where you both then change details, and that's it. Then those details are changed, and a direct link between you and the user is set up. So there's no more. So we don't know what you're talking about. We don't know whether you're having an audio call, a video call, text messaging, or whatever.
Yeah, and here's actually an example, just to show people quickly. Like this is how the Outernet chat looks, and this is installed on one of my websites, and it's just a communicate. Like basically, it's a JavaScript, right? If I'm getting it
Yeah,
right,
all you
that's
do is just
yeah,
upload a couple of files.
yeah. And so you upload the file, and then what ends up happening is that file just works as a mechanism. So when you put in the address, I put in chat.government is non-essential. But if I do that, let's see if I just do that. And what it does, it presents you with a hashtag and a specific room number. And so, but you could actually do whatever room you want. You could create like John's pool room, like whatever room you want, like name after that hashtag, and you could have your own private room. And then, of course, you share that with the other person, and voila, you have basically. Now, we're not going to do one right now because we're right now we're on Zoom, our competitor. But as you can see here, and basically you just go and click here and then open up the video chat. I can't click on it right now because I'm using the camera, of course. But so you click on that, and then you basically have that. And currently, this is the first version. This is actually our our main version that we created first, and it's called Rendezvous, right? Is that correct? Like the first version?
Yes, essentially it's just a prototype at the moment,
Yeah.
and it's what's called alpha version. Um,
But the alpha
and we've
version
just
is
nicknamed.
working pretty much well. You know, like it works like a late beta test. That's that's how fun this is. But yeah, so that's kind of how that looks. And so I just wanted to show it to people. You got up here, you got, you know, you can see who is in the room. If there's more people snooping on you, you could easily click there. Actually, you could click there, and then you could see. Like right now, it just shows because I've been using the same thing all over again. But you will see like just one person that would be here that would be snooping on you, potentially. So yeah, it's very cool stuff, and we're gonna go into some other stuff after this. But that's kind of our first. I'm gonna stop sharing. There we're back. Yeah, and so it's very cool. Technology. It's basically like kind of like Zoom, but not as fancy. But it actually does have screen shares, so you could share a screen. What other functions is there? I think you have like a little bit of file sharing or something going on there too that you
Yeah,
could do.
we have file sharing as well involved. We've been practicing with file sharing, text messaging. We're also integrating into a decentralized AI as well, which will be very interesting. Um, as such, we're breaking it down into its individual sort of. We've got individual Lego bricks that we sort of put together to make each sort of app.
Yeah.
And so you might see, say, the text messaging functionality appear in what's called the group, coming up into a group chat app, which we're making soon. Um, we then, and we're going to be having the AI involved. And let me just take a look at some of the other. We've got an entire sort of dev team working
Well,
on this at the
well,
moment.
what I'll do is let me share my PowerPoint right now. Like
Hmm.
we have a PowerPoint where we kind of show, like this is just for internal use, but we gotta actually share it with you because I think it's some
For
great,
internal use, there's everything we do is pretty much public anyway.
yeah, exactly. Though it's very much public. So, but this is basically here. Let me pull this away here. Damn it. Um, yeah. So like this is here. Let me put it on presentation so we can see it more easily. Um, so yeah, this is our Outernet here, and as you can see, let's oh, I shared the wrong screen. Just give me a we got technical difficulties here. Just let me share it again. Yeah, no, so this is very cool because it shows you kind of some of the project, and we don't I don't think I even have all the project. That's how fast things are moving basically is because we do have a lot of different projects here. And oh yeah, there's me. Oh, I like this. You know, we're up there in the corner hanging out. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of Outernet right now, and as you talked about, like let's go through some of them. So we got the rendezvous, which is the number, like that's you know our video chat version 1.0. But I think it will actually be a really good part of our project portfolio coming forward because what is going to happen is like this is a very simple version, nothing fancy to it, you know. And what's really cool is that the people that join actually add right their processing power and start the computer actually shares the processing power to then run what we've seen on the screen like actual chat itself and everything around it, so it's super cool. And so like you got the torrents as you were talking about, you know, connecting, and when that connection is done, that's basically it for using the website and everything else. Like now we're directly connected, and so we're just talking to each other, and that's what's really amazing is that you're directly connected peer to peer without a central server, and it's
That's what's the
very
revolutionary part about this,
yeah.
because a lot of the business models of some of the major tech companies in the world they're heavily reliant on people using their infrastructure. Without them using their infrastructure, they can't charge you, or they can't advertise to you, or they can't take your data and then sell it on to somebody else. Now, but that's their excuse, and people sort of mildly accept that. Well, they are providing this service for me, so let them make a bit of money here and there. But slowly but surely, freedoms are being whittled away. I mean, you
Yeah,
can't walk anywhere without being tracked.
No, and especially if
Um,
it's free, then
yeah,
definitely you're gonna get tracked and,
and when you're
and
spending a
abused.
thousand, $2,000, $3,000 on a device, and they're still taking and they're still selling your data, that's when it becomes a bit of a joke. I mean, how much of your mobile data plan is actually used up on stuff that doesn't benefit you? How much of it is
Yeah, all
used
the
up on
trackers.
tracking you and
Just yeah,
advertising
just
to you?
yeah, just try to use like Brave browser, for example, and you had the ad blocker, and then if you pay attention to it at first, it's ridiculous, how much get blocked. Like just beyond, like go on Facebook and use it. Like download Brave browser if you can, and then you go to like Facebook or YouTube, and you'll see like ads blocked, trackers blocked. Like it's ridiculous, the amount of traffic, as you're saying.
I know, and this is what we're getting away from is by using a decentralized infrastructure, meaning that the people who are using it are part of the infrastructure. So by doing that, we don't need to charge anybody. We don't need to. We just focus on making good quality software and applications and making good, robust architecture. That's one of the core points about this because we don't just want us to be producing the software. We want also many other developers to get on board with this and then make stuff for themselves
Yeah,
and
no,
make stuff for their own audiences.
No, exactly, and that's what's cool about open source projects is that they usually take some of them are really really good. If anybody's familiar with Linux, that's a that's a pretty big one. And is JavaScript an open source project at all?
Pretty much,
No.
yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
kind of,
much.
yeah.
JavaScript is.
And I think like a lot of people like that version of it where the actual code is open source and you could actually share and then people can then get involved and actively develop. Look at what happened with Bitcoin when the actual blockchain code was and then people just made their own. There's like hundreds, no, tens of thousands of different blockchains and cryptocurrencies right now, but
Mm,
most of them are based on Bitcoin, or
absolutely.
in the form of Ethereum, Ethereum, but it's a little bit different than a Bitcoin, of course. But so you see, like these projects take a life of their own, and people that are really loving their freedoms, that wants to have their privacy. I know that probably some people have given up on it, but what we're trying to do here is we're actually trying to give people the hope back. That
Mm,
we're seeing right now, you're seeing the push for central bank digital currencies, the ultra surveillance state coming through and being pushed in our faces basically by the central governments. And so what we're trying to do, we're trying to be the counter side here, trying to push because the pendulum is swinging over to totalitarianism right now in a lot of countries. And we're talking actually about the Western countries, the guys that created freedom in itself and the free markets and all these ideas, libertarian ideas and so on. And you're seeing them now turn the completely different way, but it's a historical pendulum that always swings forth and back between totalitarianism and complete freedom and back and forth and back and forth. And so we're about to like we're probably like over a quarter of the way left to totalitarianism right now. And
mm.
are we going to go all the way up there? Maybe we are during this project. But we are trying to give people the actual solution to be able to get away from that and live. During the Soviet Union, there was still an economy that lived and survived underneath it because people were smart and they knew how to get away from stuff. So that's what we're trying to do and create. Like we're trying to create that infrastructure. And actually, we're not creating much infrastructure, are we? Like we're
Well, that's
basically
one
what
of
we're
the
doing
things.
is yeah, go on. But basically what we're doing is that we're just giving people the program to be able to then create the infrastructure from all the people are the infrastructure basis.
There is one issue that's both close to mine and your heart as well, and that's the environmental concerns that this alleviates.
Oh goodness. Yeah, well, yeah, let's talk about the environmental concerns. Let's hear it, James. What
Well,
is our
considering
ESG? Will we get a
yeah,
good ESG score is the question.
oh yeah, absolutely. Considering that there's that this basically sidesteps all the data centers and using current technology that people have in their homes, then this obviously cuts down on all those computers running and all that energy being produced and blah 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 environmental. Where how dare you? So, but it really does. It sidesteps a lot of data centers, and if this technology does gain traction, which I'm thinking it's already there, um, then we're going to see a lot of these places just simply disappear.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like it's funny with and with our monetary system, with the way we govern. We always like to go from decentralized to centralized, decentralized to centralized, and that actually also happened in computing. Over the last like how long? When did when did the computers actually come out? Like the terminal systems. Like that was like early, what's 70s,
60s,
80s, 60s even. Yeah.
60s, 70s.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but during that time, you actually had a terminal, but you had a central unit in, like, let's say this was an office building, right? And then you had like a central computer that ran all these terminals basically for you. So
Mm.
you actually didn't have any storage or anything for yourself. It was actually basically a cloud system, but very local and very, it couldn't do much with it because it was very low storage and processing power on these computers. But what was really cool was that yeah, we suddenly got the personal computer. Now, I don't remember exactly when they came out, but I remember when I started using one, and I think I was,
Mm.
let's see, it was 1992 or 93, and I was like 8 or 9 years old when my dad bought his first 386 computer. And I don't know if you're
Had the
familiar with
exact
that one.
same one,
Oh,
Across 386.
yeah, and it was ridiculously expensive. But what was cool about it is that it had a whopping 4 megabyte hard drive, and I
Mm.
I don't know how many kilobytes of RAM it had, but anyways, it was really cool. But then I remember I went from a 386 and I bought I think it was a Pentium, and it was a 166 megahertz processor, which was ridiculous. I remember playing SimCity on my 386, and suddenly it's SimCity because back in the day there was no throttling on the speed of games. So when you got a higher processor, it was like, holy shit. So we went back, but we got the personal computer, and now we're starting to actually like store stuff and keep things in our own hard drives in our own houses, right? And we
Mm.
actually had control over it. Now there's still the personal computer. Like I still have my personal. Everybody has their personal computer, but a lot of it today is really pushed hard. And if you don't pay attention, on using Office or Microsoft product, or especially like things like your Apple phone or Apple product, you have these drives, these like a Dropbox, or you have the OneDrive that Microsoft has, or you have the what is the other one called now? Apple Cloud. And all these products, like they're all basically cloud. Now you have a data center somewhere in who knows where, that are storing your stuff. And you really have lost a lot of the ownership over it because they can basically just delete it or do anything they want if you read their privacy policy, which a lot of times is hundreds of pages, right? And you got to remember we just spoke about ours. It's just a tiny little one-liner. There's no privacy concerns. We will never collect any data at all from you because it's completely decentralized peer-to-peer. There's no worries about the collection of data. The only collection of data an intelligence agency could do, and you kind of talked about this, is basically when they snoop on your ISP and they could see that there's either a chat going on or a video call or audio call. That's about it.
Yeah, obviously, an ISP can see how much data is being
Yeah,
transferred from potentially a device within your home, or at least from your connection. And from there, they can actually derive patterns. So there's obviously different patterns for when you're surfing a web page. There's different patterns when you're downloading an image. There's different
yeah.
patterns when you're doing a video call. So if somebody does try and misuse the software or use it for criminal activity, then they're going to need law enforcement. So we're going to need to find a different way to sort of find out who might be involved. But then they could depending on how heavy they're doing it, how heavy hitting they are. They can then get a warrant from the IS to for the ISP and then potentially tap your internet connection. Even though it's encrypted, I'm fairly certain there are ways around that. But there's nothing stopping you from essentially upgrading your own encryption and using your own encryption keys. So that is something that can be added on, but that's something we're obviously not
Yeah, not
trying at this
currently
time.
a big worry.
Yeah,
But it's definitely something for the future. But we could talk for hours about encryption even, and
oh,
how,
good God, yeah.
like, yeah, you always said like nothing. If you go back actually and watch, there's an interview that I did with James way before. Actually, at the time, I don't think at the time of the interview I did with James that I knew about Outernet, by the way, which is pretty cool.
No,
It's kind of like
so what, you
a
were
thing
not
that,
introduced to this till
yeah,
afterwards, till
yeah,
several weeks afterwards, because I was like, John might be the right guy for this. Because I actually, me and the development team have been working on this for well over 2 years, and we've gone through loads of different iterations of the software and different ways of actually um, trying things out and trying to working out ways of swapping these details, because there's a protocol that every device goes through. Whenever two devices are about to start talking to each other, they all follow the same protocol. So we've just been finding different ways to get it to do what it was doing.
yeah,
And that's why, because Outernet is not just restricted to the internet. It's not just restricted to like mobile or um, Wi-Fi. We can actually use things like Bluetooth. We can even we're looking on a solution that can work with ham radio as well.
yeah.
And we even speaking to your friend. I mean, our anticipation one day is we're going to actually get our own satellite up
Yeah,
into
that'd
our
be
building.
that is a goal down the line,
That
and
is a
when
goal down the line.
yeah, and then you get the Outernet around the globe.
Yes, that's
The
the
internet is terrestrial. The Outernet is everywhere.
well, the
Yeah,
Outernet name came from it because we were looking at this, and we just realised how much, how overreaching the organisations are that are like running the internet. Because there's only a handful of them,
yeah,
but you've got like your mainstream players, and they've all sold out to government. They've all sold out to intelligence agencies, and anyone who can benefit them. And we just realized when we started using this, we were so shocked at how much better it performed. We actually thought it was going to be worse, but that was going to be a trade off for the privacy. But no, all of a sudden it started working so much better. And we realized then the reason it works better is because all your content, even your video content, are not being filtered through all these AI snoopers, and it's all
yeah.
going to third party servers, and it's been having a lag on it's been causing a lag on performance. So that's what we called it. That's when we said, well, this was the internet, and we've created sort of the outernet.
And
and
voila, here we are.
yeah,
I
that's
love
where
it.
the name came from, outernet.
Yeah, that's fantastic, James. And our development team, I had the chance to talk to some of them, and it's amazing. It's like a genius.
They're a
Um,
bunch of characters. They really are
yeah,
an absolute bunch of
yeah,
characters.
but
Honestly, I don't know how we've got all these people, but
no, and what's cool
they're
about
very,
them
very capable.
is that they're very private people. They don't want their names out there or anything, because we
Yeah,
we got to respect it. But they're really, really, really smart people. Like, they talk about. I had I think a guy on TikTok was talking about what a genius is, and so on, and he said like geniuses are usually like 10 years before everybody else, or something like that, and sure enough, that's what this is. The technology that we're looking at now is not, you got the Web 2.0, like 1.0, 2.0, and then they're talking about Web 3.0. Well, we just skip that. We're kind of sitting at what we should call it Web 4.0,
Web
which
4.0 and 5.0.
yeah, which is more the decentralization, pure decentralization of internet. And so looking at these technologies, so we talked about Rendezvous. We have another cool like chat, but this type of chat, like we have it up here, it's called the Metascape. And what I found is really cool about that, like it's kind of VR. You could use VR headset with this and get connected. But what is really cool about it, it's not just for that. Like I said to James, is like, James, this is like a website. and you could have your podcast running. You could talk live to people. You could have like concerts, on this thing. But it's decentralized. It's not controlled by a central entity. So let's say that you could even probably set up on this that people could donate to you, and give you whatever. If you're an artist, you could put whatever donations on there. People could donate to you, and even probably could just if you have a private web address or something they want to set up, you could just have people then click on that and then get access to the website. A lot of really cool things, but the metaverse is kind of cool for I think Klaus Schwab will actually use it at the World Economic Forum and his accomplices, and maybe Zucker over there at the certain book there. I think they would love our Metascape because it's private but what is really cool about it, it's actually private in a public way. Um, what I liked about it is that you could add things to it, like a video stream, or maybe you could even add a live. There's so much you can do to it, but it's like a website. Like it's like website 4.0 kind of thing where you could have all these kind of interactions on a website. I think it is, but maybe you could explain that tiny little bit
Absolutely.
more about it.
Well, Metascape is essentially a lot like the other projects. It's decentralized, but it's like a VR chat room. So you can put on a headset, but you can even log in by a desktop if you don't want to use VR. And you're able to customize it as much as you want, like the outer atmosphere, the ground, and then you can put various different objects all around. And you just send a link to whoever you want it.
That's the
You
same
can even
exact
install,
principle, same exact
yeah,
principle as our other versions, by the way.
yeah, same exact principle. And the great thing about this principle is you don't have to go to the website first and then set yourself up a link. You can just type the website address, add your own custom link, and then it's usable by both parties even before you've arrived at the website,
Yeah.
which I found absolutely. I just found that incredible. Normally, with anything like this, you have to go up, sign up, add a password, verify an email. With this, there's none of that junk anymore. So, with where Metascape's concerned, it's a lot like the basically like a website for website, but in VR.
Yeah.
So look at how many different iterations of websites there are. You've got search engines, social media platforms, e-commerce platforms. Like just taking e-commerce for a moment. Imagine instead of just having an e-commerce where you can scroll down, look through. Imagine one where you can actually go into it. You put or with your headset or on a
Yeah, and then you could
um
click on it. It's like, oh, I like this thing. Yeah.
and I like this thing and I like that.
Yeah.
And you can give users a much more in-depth profile. Like as many people know, I like to collect art, and I've actually got my own art gallery via room where people have taken scans of artworks that I own and put and it's in there. So I have my own art gallery online in Metascape, and you can actually go in and see what it's like and it's very difficult looking at pictures to get a good tangible view of it, and this makes it makes it much more tangible.
Yeah, no,
But
exactly.
Netscape could be changed to anything. It could be a chat room. You could create your own chat room. You could have a concert. You could have lectures. You could have all sorts. And the way we're working on things now is there's not going to be that scalability cost. Like you see a lot of these platforms that are supposedly have got privacy at heart and blah blah blah. But all of a sudden, when you start getting popular, they start charging you for it.
Yeah.
Well, there's no infrastructure again. There's no infrastructure cost to us, so therefore, there's going to be no cost passed on to the customer. It's all you. It's all on you, based on your own technology.
Yeah.
In fact, the more people who join, the more power will be contributed to what's going on.
Yeah, and so that's the Metascape, and it's a really cool like version of the Outernet products that you guys put together. And another one is a very simple one is just peer to peer a chat, but it's kind of like you could set it up as a cell phone type of number, right? Where Basically you could download, if I'm not mistaken, like I think you could set up a number and then you could call anyone. From
It's an interesting concept. What
Yeah.
because I've seen a couple of things on the flowchart here, and what it is with a peer-to-peer network, anyone can sort of join in, and you don't know anything about them. Now that's great from a confidentiality point of view, but it's also a nightmare from validating who you are. So um, the problem would be is somebody could then easily imitate you on if we had a say social network or something like that. So what we've come out with is a outer SIM card. It's going to be a virtual SIM card that you can use and would be almost impossible to duplicate. I have to say almost impossible because nothing's impossible.
No, of course. The impossible just takes a little bit longer sometimes.
Yeah,
Could take
and
decades. Never
it's
know.
going to be like a SIM card,
Yeah.
like SIM card, and it's going to be that you can use anywhere on the decentralized web to identify yourself, or if you wish to. So you can not identify yourself, but build up a reputation. So any action you can sort of back up with your um, outer SIM, and people can say, "Oh, that is such and such a person." And we've been sort of examining all the implications of like having this an outer SIM or the virtual SIM card, and we think it's going to solve a lot of problems in terms of so you can if we do have like say e-commerce shops on there, or you can be assured that it is coming from the person you think it's coming from,
Yeah.
or you're sending things to the person you think you're sending them from, like with file sharing as well. So it also makes this incredibly easy for you to scrap all your devices, or if you get rid of all your devices, then as long as you keep your virtual SIM card, which is a lot similar to a crypto key, like your public and private keys on cryptocurrency. It's very similar to them, and you can keep as long as you keep them, you can then set up elsewhere on another device and still have all your files, all your chat, and all your reputation still intact.
Yeah, it's a very amazing another technology, and I know virtual SIM card. Actually, my current phone has a virtual SIM card from like the current provider that I use, which is Rogers. They actually, so virtual SIM cards, I think is the future. You know, they gotta get rid of the SIM card is kind of getting obsolete. You know, I remember SIM cards. They were back in the 90s in Norway. They had SIM cards,
Yeah.
and my dad had a handheld Ericsson, like not a handheld, like it was like a mobile one. You know, like on a with a
Yeah.
big battery. It was probably like this big, and he carried it,
Suitcase
put it in
phone,
his
yeah.
car, and you know, like he was the Mr. Cool Guy over there, you know, with his big cell phone. And so like SIM cards have been around, but I think that kind of is dying out because you don't, as these virtual SIM card type of functions, you don't really need that anymore. So it's very, very cool, very exciting. Another product, you know, that and you gotta remember when I got introduced to this, I think there was like just three base products that you guys have done. But then after I just taken off, and I don't even think this page actually encapsulates everything that we're currently have
Oh,
worked on or have projects on. So, but you got the another cool thing is our file sharing, you know, program that we have that you use in the same fashion as you use the other ones. You get a link and then you share it, and then you actually both are on that link, and you could upload files, and then the other one could download it in a private manner. So it's like a peer-to-peer still, you know, same connection. And it's very, very cool because you could transfer, you know, whatever high, you know, volume of files you want. You know, there's no
oh,
limits to
absolutely.
it. You know, there's no Dropbox controlling or throttling or making sure that, you know, they get their pay. Like it's basically another amazing service that is out there for people to use. And I like it. You know, we've used it, and it's very simple. Like it's just a website with, you know, probably get a little bit of touch ups because we're like most of these are just in alpha, but I would say probably some of these projects could be just launched right now as very like decent successful products.
I say
So
this to the dev team regularly
yeah,
every day. Every day I'm on the phone. Every day I'm speaking to them and say, "Can we release it? Yeah, can we release it?" I have been like a child waiting for
Yeah,
Christmas for like 2 years now, and
yeah,
exactly as you said, with the file sharing, one of the issues as a developer I found it so frustrating because you're taking your file, you're uploading it to a service you don't know the employees, you don't know the motivations, you just don't know what's going what
yeah,
how, and once it's out there, it's out there. But you then got to wait for somebody else to download it. Right, fair enough. But I found that incredibly clunky. What happens when you want to move a file from one device to another? Um, I just found that method just so um, the current things like smart cloud storage just too clunky to deal with. What we've done at Outernet is this actually sets up a direct connection between the two devices, and the file can then be sent. So nobody's going to. It's reducing the amount of places that it goes through for a
yeah,
start, which obviously increases its security. And again, there's no and because there's no infrastructure, there's no restrictions on amount of files, size of files, blah blah blah. What can be um, potentially snooping if somebody wanted to take a look inside them or audit them or something of that nature. Then yeah, you're not getting any of that hassle. So this is
yeah.
just a nice, simple, free thing to use, and it doesn't cost us anything because again, we're not using any of our own infrastructure on this. It's using what you already have.
Yeah, and what's cool about this is when talk to dev team, they actually I remember when I spoke to them first time,
Oh yeah,
what was described was actually that we're developing for grandma and grandpa. We're
grandma, grandma.
developing something super user friendly, and very easy to use because if you don't, there's lots of projects out there that are built by programmers like this guy, that
Like
are
this guy.
that are not very user friendly for the general public, right? So it's very, very cool to have programmers that actually understand, the need for simplicity and ease of use because that's key for any consumer out there to have a product that they want. So it's super cool. Very excited about
That was one thing I
that.
was wrong on early on in my career. There's always rivalries between back end programmers, front end programmers, and my all time favorite were the user design developers or user interface developers. And we always used to take the mick out of them, going, "Oh, there's a job that's not going to be around much longer." God bless them. And honestly, every year, user interface developers and user experience developers are just more and more needed who have got that
Yeah.
intuition with consumers, how consumers actually interface with software. But yeah, that was so I had to eat humble pie on that one.
Yeah, I gotta bite that one. Bite that bullet.
Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome. You know,
they make our work usable.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's really, really cool. But the thing is, like, you guys do both basically. So,
Mm,
like, what is happening in the dev team and James here basically does both. Like you actually does the back up front like just to make it look nice. That's all developed by our team here, and so there's nobody that can like it's a jack of all trades. And you've been in the game
yeah.
for a long time that you actually know what to do and everything. So it's very, very cool to have
Oh,
guys.
absolutely.
Actually, James is my age. I just turned 40, and James is just right underneath me. Still a
I'm
young one.
38 now. I'm
So
38.
yeah, but yeah, so still young guys here. But you start hitting your peak at your 40s, and then it goes upwards until your 60s, and it goes down. No. but but anyways, so it's very great to have at the it's kind of like it's funny like in any trade or any career it's usually your 40s where you become really good at your trade. You become
Oh yeah,
really understanding, and you spent who is it now, Outliers, the book is talking about. I forgot what his name is now, but it talks about the 10,000 hours that you need to put in minimum to become
yeah,
really good at what you're doing. And of course we've done our duties here to put, and I have done it in the side of like studying monetary history and economics and all this stuff. And James has extensive, and of course the dev team has extensive background in
Oh yeah.
developing things. So it's very, very cool to have such a great team to work with here, and I'm very excited that you guys chose me. Very humbled, and so it's
Oh,
very, very
it's
exciting.
been incredible. You've taken us to places we never thought we'd be. We're just we're back office geeks. But we came up with something good, and it was like, okay, what now?
Yeah. No,
And it's like,
I'm a monitor geek, but I'm also a structure geek when it
yeah,
comes to how we're going to govern us, and it's so important
oh yeah,
that we have things, especially we're not going to go back to the Stone Age, guys. It's
yeah,
very important to have software that actually allows you to have full freedom, and it actually takes care of the free speech aspect, very much so, and your right to privacy and all that stuff. It's just such a
mm,
fantastic thing to find the project with James here and our development team, and
thank
so
you.
I'm very, very excited about it. But let's talk a little bit. So we went into Outer Sim, like I called it Outer Sim. I like that one. Um, and then we talked about the file sharing, and then there's a couple of other little projects that we got on the go as well. Like we got a project called Zap and Zaps. Can you explain a little bit about what that is
Oh
all about?
boy. Right. Well, essentially, zaps are just a play on the word app, and we know everybody out there is not going to be as tech savvy, or they might only have like a bit of JavaScript knowledge, or they might, but they still want to build decentralized apps. So we've created a small application that allows you to write just in basic HTML or JavaScript an app that can then run on a decentralized network, and you just simply make your HTML and your JavaScript. You put it into a zip file with a few other files, and then you can share that around as an application. So that can run on other people's device. It can either run on the decentralized network or it can run on other people's devices. But it makes it incredibly easy to distribute, to basically create and distribute an app. So we're not only got a Zap, which is the application, but we're also going to have a Zap directory or a Zap store.
Zaps. I love it.
A Zap store, yeah. And so you could essentially create your own applications and share them around very easily. And that took just a couple of we took about 10 days for us to make that, and it worked. We were And there was another interesting thing that cropped up. We went around the internet looking for pre-made JavaScript HTML files and little games, and we then zipped them up and put them in a Zap. And the name's getting to me already.
You zip
Zap.
zap, zip zap, zip zap.
We zipped them into a Zap, and they work just very, very quickly. And I'm trying to keep my language clean, but it was fast. It was
Yeah,
like, good God.
yeah. It was it's quite amazing. I actually tested a few things. I think you showed me a game, and it's easy. I just
Yes.
clicked on the game to run it, and then it runs right on my phone.
Yeah.
Like this, like oh, but without the actual app store.
Yeah.
I have an Apple, and so just really cool. And then I think Dev Team actually added the Bible onto it, so I could actually go in and read the Bible. Like it was super cool. Like
Yeah. You
it
can
was in a
essentially just,
Zap itself.
yeah, you can basically take a JavaScript HTML file, zip it up, zap it up, and then it can run on an iPhone, it can run on Android, it can run on BlackBerry, it can run on desktop, Apple. Um, we're actually trying to get it working on. We're getting a really old computer and seeing if we can run it on that as well. And because theoretically we should be able to do it, but we haven't actually tried it yet. So we're just trying to make it so people can make stuff and proliferate it without any of these weird restrictions.
Yeah, and what's cool with the the Zap Store eventually is that also there's other cool little things attached to it. Like there's potentially a way for artists and everybody to upload their stuff, but you could actually set paywalls on them. I think there's stuff like that that you can actually add. So
Raise
you know, if
paywalls.
you wanted to download you know, an artist's music directly, not
Yes.
with third parties that steals all their money. And movie companies could, you know, directly add it without, you know, having their intermediaries that they have now that sucks out a lot of their capital. They could then share it directly in his app store. And so basically you create like on the sidelines of all this, you create like a Netflix slash you know, Spotify or a you know, who's the Amazon ebook store or whatever you call it. I forgot what you call it, but you could create all that stuff within there and then set up, you know, the paywalls so people can actually, or if they want to share for free, of course, it's available. So very, very cool stuff that you could do there. I'm very excited about that portion. You know, there's so many projects here, but probably one of the really, really big projects here could be the Zap store.
Absolutely.
I
There's
think
not.
because it's again it's a decentralized type of a system. So how does it work? Like if you upload a Zap, you know, to it, like how do you actually get that? Can you tell a little bit about what you guys have planned for, like putting it all together, like so it's like people can access it? Like how would that exactly work?
Oh, well, first of all, you have to download the Zap engine, which you down and John, you've installed your own Outernet software, haven't you? I ran you through how quickly it is to
Yeah.
install something, and it's literally just 3 or 4 clicks, and that's it. You install your own the Zap engine, and then you can run any Zaps that have been created through the engine, and that's it. We we don't want to be with the Zap Store. We like the idea, but we only want that as like an option. We don't want that to be the end all be all of where to
Yeah.
get your Zaps from, because that would be back to centralization
Yeah. 100%.
again. What we
So
want
it's
to do is
basically a voluntary network of people adding
yeah,
zaps and then sharing it around and so on.
yeah, there'll be a voluntary network. People just creating Zaps, sharing them, and distributing them and distributing them as apps and things for and that's sorry, I lost my train of thought. Then,
That's okay. Yeah.
as you can see, there's so many implications. The thing about the software, though,
Yeah.
is whenever you build, up until the point where I came involved with Outernet, whenever you were building something, you'd write down an aim on what you wanted it to do. You'd write down functions and things like that and how things should be. You'd architect a piece of software, and you then write the code um, to fulfill that goal. This project's been so much different because we're just writing code and then we're understanding. It's only afterwards we're understanding the implications of it. It's only afterwards we're saying, oh, hang on, I can do this. Oh, hang on, I can do that.
Yeah,
It's not like,
which is really cool. It's like, and then we talk about it, and then it was like, oh, what about this? Oh, that's a great idea. You know, like it just
yeah,
you can just brainstorm around these technologies here, and then you can find other applications for it. You know, the Metascape was basically like a just Metascape that you could just meeting room, but then it's like, oh,
yeah,
we could make it into a website, do whatever we want with it, basically.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So very
I know,
cool.
because essentially what we actually built Metascape out of was a load of HTML. We
Yeah.
actually built a 3D room with HTML, and then that
H
opened up the gateway to, oh, good God, so does that mean we can put this into it and that into it? And it was like, wow.
and
Quite
this
literally
is
every
the
gateway brain gets melted.
yeah, and for the non-geeks out there, HTML is basically one of the base languages of the internet. It's basically how it kind of started almost like
Yeah, it's
uh
how a web
yeah.
page is built.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually built my own little web pages back as a little kid. You know, I forgot what they're called. GeoCities. Oh yeah, GeoCities was the first website that I ever built, which I
GeoCities.
think I, you know, then turned into YouTube, no, Yahoo or something after a while. Uh, but yeah, it was you know, you create these little things like codes, and I actually learned it at school, like the just the basic HTML stuff, and you know, it's funny, this technology is going back to the basics. You know, it's we're
Absolutely.
talking about the JavaScripts and and so it's very simple, use of it. And then the program, like creating, just the implications of creating like the Rendezvous, which is the basically the video communication platform
Hmm.
on a JavaScript, is ridiculous, because you as a programmer could probably tell everyone like how ridiculous of an idea that probably was. But it actually ended up working like extremely well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh,
very.
well, actually, a little story. I'm not sure if I've told you this before, but we started it out not as a video thing. We were just changing text with each other, and then we pushed over to audio, and then we hang on. We realized we doing audio. It's just a flick of a button before we can do video, and it was like, oh God, we've actually done it with video as well. It was like, wow. And this is how a lot of these started out. They started out with that big purple dot in the middle, which was only
Yeah,
a little dot. And
yeah.
then they spawned more dots, and it's like, oh good God, this is really starting to proliferate. It was like this, we
And
we have
these
kind of
are
struggled,
Yeah, and these are just a few people. Like,
and
we're
these
not
are just a few
talking
things.
about like, well, just wait until this gets out there, and we release it into the wild, which will be very soon.
Hmm.
Can we like do you have any ideas of when we probably will like start to launch some of the stuff out into the wild? Like, do you have any
Well, coming
ballpark
very
ideas?
soon is the WordPress plugin.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of people would love to have, like, say, their own version of Rendezvous, or their own version of Metascape, and one of the easiest ways to get up and running is using WordPress. So what we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks is releasing our WordPress plugin, so you can have your own voice to voice, video to video chat on your own WordPress website, and it's not going to be costing you a fee per month, or it's not going to be costing you bandwidth or anything like that. It's just going to be you can install it and people can use it the way the internet should be.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's very, very exciting. And so I'm looking forward to that. But there's a couple other little things here. We
Hmm.
talk about these things, and then I remember, as we were talking about these projects, we then like suddenly get an aha moment. We were like, oh shoot, these are like huge ramifications could have for everything. Uh, and so we haven't like there's a couple that still have huge ramifications there for society. And let's talk about this one. We're going to talk about the outer AI right away, but let's talk about
Yeah.
there's two more projects here, and then I don't know if there's more out in the ether of the Outernet team here, but
Oh, good God,
let's
yeah,
talk about the
every day.
we talked about one that was kind of like outer social, which is a function that you could have potentially. We have a decentralized social network.
Well,
Talk about
yeah,
that just quickly.
I'm not sure if any of you have ever got the feeling that some of your posts just aren't getting through to your friends, or maybe you're saying
Algorithms.
some. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm not sure if you've said something and it's fallen foul of the powers that can be,
Yeah,
And just because you're saying something you believe in, people say, "No, that's misinformation." Blah blah blah. Well, we've had absolutely enough of it. We really have. It appears that what the only posts that get any traction are the ones that reinforce the agendas of whoever's running the
yeah,
platform, whoever's pulling the strings of the platform. And we've decided that a lot of social media sites and the social network sites, and they're not rocket science to make happen. It's just a basic centralized database, um, JavaScript interface, and that's roughly it. That what we've done is created our own social app where you host your own data, you host your own posts, your own videos, and the more people that gravitate towards your content, they also are contributing resources to your profile, and you're contributing resources to theirs. So there is no infrastructure, therefore there are no people calling the shots. It's just simply run by everybody.
yeah.
And and people are going. The immediate reaction is, what happens if somebody does something wrong? What happens if somebody misuses the technology? Well, it's dead simple. You can just put, if you see somebody like you don't agree with their opinion, or you think you don't want to be contributing resources to them, you can just easily disconnect your resources from. that person, and we're going to have a much more clearer picture of what people think on the internet than what the social networks are telling us.
Yeah,
But
you know,
there won't
I
be any
like
more
what.
shadow banning.
Sorry, say it again.
There will be no more shadow banning.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's I've been a victim of that back in 2018. We got our well, actually before I think it was started in 2016. We got shadow banned.
Yeah.
I used to be like co-hosting and helping out with World
Mm.
Alternative Media was called, which is a big media channel. Like we got you know to some of the biggest alternate like media channels on YouTube in Canada, and the authorities didn't like it. So
Mm.
suddenly we started to see like we got a they started to stop us from adding ads, like having getting paid with ads on our videos. But then you go and click on the video, and there's like an ad playing, but we got banned from that. So they're making the money and the dough, and not us. And then so it started with that, I remember, and then it just slowly trickled, and then suddenly like your viewership starting to disappear slowly, together with
Yeah.
like the amount of people, and people got disconnected, and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's centralized, and even X, you know, X is taking a turn for a lot better, but it's still, you know,
Mm.
a lot of censorship on there. You know, the great Elon, you know, he sits there and can do if he doesn't like you, there's certain people that have, you know, lost their privileges if he doesn't
Yeah.
like you. And so that could happen, but with the outer, so how would it work in like let's say that we had it up and running. Let's say that was 1,000 users. You know, they're probably going to be millions and probably billions in the future. But how would it actually work? So, do you have to have your computer up and running at the time when?
You simply there's a couple of ways as we're still developing, but
Yeah,
we'll work in conjunction with Outer Sim. So you set up like your own little sim, and in a couple of seconds you've got your sim. Then you've got you just download the Outernet social app. We haven't named it yet, so we're just
yeah,
calling it the
yeah.
social. And then you can just type away. You can put input like a picture of yourself. You then have a link, and people can you can then distribute your link the same way you distribute any other like an X link or a Facebook link or something of that nature, and then you can just put the link out there, and
Yeah.
that's you, and people can then just say, okay, add that person. You obviously have got the option to add that person as well, so it's quite similar to say an RSS feed,
Oh yeah.
um, and that's basically it. If you're putting sort of very large content on there, like 100 megabyte videos, or then you'll be able to, people who like your content can essentially contribute resources, so will be able to download packets of your video. And if you've got like hundreds and hundreds of people or thousands of people following you, then those packets of videos are all going to basically build up one large video, and that means it can never really be removed. So that's just sort of one of the. I think that's one of the benefits, but it can also be a drawback if you later want to redact some content.
Yeah.
But we'll have to find a way to do that. But that's roughly how Outer Social is going to work.
Yeah, very, very exciting stuff. And
It's just a
um,
very basic concept, and we're thinking, why didn't people think of doing this before?
yeah, no, it's back to the basics. That's kind
Yeah.
of what Outernet is all about. It's just very basic. You know, let's get back to normalcy. But with that comes actually the privacy part and all that fun stuff that doesn't exist anymore on the
Mm.
internet. So it's very exciting. You know what is happening there. With it's still in super early stage, so there's not much to it yet. But I remember we just like, oh, social network. I was like, oh, here, you know, like that's basically how it worked. The initial part of it, and it actually kind of worked, you know. So it's super
That's
cool with
one of the sayings, isn't it? No centralization means no monetization.
yeah,
So exactly. So we're not centralizing it, and we're not monetizing it really. So
yeah,
I
yeah. No,
mean, we
so
might have at some points. We're going to have like a Outernet fan club or
oh,
something
for
like that. We're
sure,
going to actually have like a membership where people can join to get advanced releases of stuff and get on board with dev team meetings and things
yeah,
like that. So everyone. can join in, and that's going to be we're going to have like the most transparent sort of monetization or support
Yeah.
system there is. So yeah.
No, very exciting. And so that's Outer Social, but, a lot of the tiny little side project that could, who knows what
Mm,
could turn into. And then we
mm.
got I like this. This is just super fun. This is like a big stab at the side of nobody likes we should say his name,
Let's see if they
Bill
can
Gates.
guess.
No, nobody likes, yeah, nobody likes
Never
Bill
heard of the
Gates,
guy.
but our project is called what? I want
We're
you to
calling it
tell it.
Outernet Explorer.
Oh, there's I just love that. That's too funny because like how are we gonna stop that? Bill, now tell us, Monopoly man over there. Well, yeah, actually, it's kind of out of his Microsoft, but he's trying to monopolize anything that is in. One of the worst probably programmers in history, and he's not really a good programmer either. Just steals stuff from people. So, very, very excited, but super funny, anyways. With Outernet Project, so how kind of would like with I know that's just like a very early concept here, but how like did you guys like how are you guys making it work? Like how does
Outernet
Outernet?
Explorer is going to be one of the best ones we've got, or in my opinion,
Yeah.
because it's going to be like a helm for you to use. Um, everything in the Outernet suite, you'll probably be able to use through Outernet Explorer. But at the same time, you'll be able to browse the internet through the decentralized network, and you'll be able to run obviously like your file sharing, your out sim, your peer-to-peer chat
Oh
just
yeah,
through
yeah.
Outernet Explorer.
Now I get it.
And we just
We haven't actually,
absolutely
by the way, we haven't talked too much about it, the
no,
Outernet
we just love
Explorer.
the
So this
name.
is this is just news to me. Anyways, this is fun. I love
This is
it.
how quick things are
Yeah,
going.
yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's like this is the most incredible landscape ever. Like if you look at the proliferation of block all respect to the Web 3.0 community, all respect to people who are into cryptocurrencies and the blockchain. But blockchain is only a small part of decentralization. Blockchain essentially is just a spreadsheet
Yeah.
that is run by several hundreds of thousands of nodes all over the world. There's so much more to decentralization, and this is why I'm so gassed up and so wow and inspired by the project because I've seen a lot of decentralized apps, and they're okay, but I've never seen an app a decentralized app where you can talk through it. And in a few minutes, I think we're going to be actually talking about the Outernet AI,
Oh yeah,
where
sorry.
we
Let's actually let's go back. I quit too early. I got too excited to see our faces.
have.
Not that anybody wants to see our beautiful faces, but
No.
let's go back here. So this is the Outernet. This is another amazing, cool feature that you guys have been working on,
Yeah,
and I thought like I just like created basic names. So there's no set name on a lot of these stuff. There's some, but I just called it Outer AI. I kind of like that. But tell people about the future of AI, and it's not Sam Altman. It's not
I've got
centralization.
nothing against Sam Altman because I don't know much about the guy. But
No, no, no.
if you've ever used various AIs, I nearly said one. Then I'm trying to refrain. Right? If you've ever seen any of the AI apps out there, you'll notice one thing about them is they're pretty heavily censored.
Yeah.
You ask it questions and they just will not tell you the answer. It's like, oh, I don't like that.
But
And
what's cool though is that you can ask an answer long enough, and they'll tell you what their sources are. For credible sources. Like BBC, like Harvard University, like what is the um Wikipedia, like all this like basically it just tells you that it's heavily censored and very much controlled by the gatekeepers with information.
absolutely.
Is yeah. So like for the people to be able to use this stuff, it's like ridiculous. Like I like it. I enjoy using
Mm,
Chat GPT, but the problem with it is that you got to understand that it's very biased and censored,
Mm.
and then you take it from there. Like you could use it for a couple, but problem also is that a lot of researchers, get everything gets saved, and they have some data on what you've been doing. I've been asking some really interesting questions.
Yeah, you've got to almost. It's like you're getting your Miranda rights every time you log onto the internet. Anything you do may be used against you later in court, even
Yeah,
if it was a crime at the time or not. You
yeah.
know, I can just see eventually, if we end up in a totalitarian government, there'll be that they'll be going back into people's teenage years and saying, "You said this about on the internet. You said that on the internet." I was like, "Yeah, it wasn't a
I
problem
was
at
a
the
dumb
time."
teenager, but yeah. It doesn't matter. You said it.
Cancel culture. It's like cancel culture. They're trying to take
Oh
over the
yeah,
world.
very much so.
It's happening.
So, but
But
yeah, let's talk about
the
the outer
problem
AI
with
because yeah,
AI, there's one big drawback with AI, and that it's so processor heavy. So that leaves the gate open for centralization.
yeah,
So people who are willing to invest in massive data centers so they can control the AI. Now,
yeah.
this is going to be a problem. It might not be much of a problem now, but it's going to be a problem along the line if we don't sort it out soon. And we've got so many people who are redundant computers. I mean, look, not people aren't using their phones 24 hours a day. They're only intermittently using it. They're just picking up and sending a message, not using it. And we could be using all that latency to be to actually be powering AI. So if we got all even just a small percentage of devices on the planet all processing AI, then we'd have more than enough processing power, and that's what we're attempting to do with Outernet. Is we're running a large language model, uh, or several large language models on a decentralized network, and that at the same time it won't be biased, it won't be censored, it will be free. So we can so free for anyone to use or at least contribute towards. John, what are you laughing about? I've lost the sound.
Oh, sorry. I was saying, I had myself muted. But
Mhm.
that's so this is very exciting. I had my evil laughter because it's not evil in the way that we're going to control everything. Actually, it's evil in the way that we're going to dismantle the centralization that is happening and
Yeah,
control over these things. That's what's very you know, considered evil by certain people is what we're doing is actually giving freedom back to
yeah,
people again and having the peasants, I know people might not like to get called peasants, but that's who we are in a lot of these elites' eyes. And so
yeah,
it's very exciting that we actually get to then put together this technology. Like with, I used a lot of know a lot of ChatGPT and Dolly. I know that now they have a movie one, but they're really wanting to heavily censor that one because we all know where that could go. They could be very bad a lot of ways. So they're gonna heavy censor that and what he could do, right? You don't want somebody to write that it's like, oh yeah, I want Joe Biden to say that we're gonna start a nuclear war, things like that. I mean, very scary stuff. But again, it's scary, but also we believe that people should be allowed to do as much as they can freely with it, and so we believe that a decentralized version of this is the appropriate way to go forward as well, and letting it out to the free because um, what you really are doing is you're just letting people be free individuals and not be controlled under somebody that because any AI is biased to the guys that program it. But with this, you could add anything to it. Like what we're doing, and you could probably explain a lot more to this, but what you're doing is you're adding basically the model itself, but now we could feed it with different things. So maybe you could go a little bit more into that and how you actually set up a decentralized AI system.
no, we are still working on it, and we are
Yeah,
still making sure it can work. We have got because there's a big difference between an AI model and a computer that can run an AI and sort of the average desktop. So, but we have got the cost down considerably. We used a very cheap graphics card. I think it was like $160 graphics card rather than like $1,000 than a $2,000 graphics card. And we can get, I think it's about 2,000 images per for around about 10 cents at the moment. So it takes an hour of electricity to produce 2,000 images. Yeah.
And that's fair, and that's just one. We're actually like what you're talking about is you have it running on, and can you give it the specs on that computer maybe to people?
I'll
So
get the
or a
specs
little
for you.
bit,
I'm looking to hand,
yeah.
but
Okay, but anyways, like how much is the kind of cost of it? Like what you guys are doing right now? Like, do you know
oh
like the approximate?
well, basically we were looking at building our own AI rig, and they're not dissimilar to crypto rigs, but there's many similarities because they both use a lot of graphics cards.
Yeah.
But a basic, we start a couple of months ago. It was about $2,000, $2,500 to get a somewhat decent rig running. We've now got that down to about $750 because you need like your case, your power supply, various graphics
But
cards and such.
that is ridiculous to me. Like that, like it might sound expensive to some people, but $700 to run an AI.
And I'm not being funny. That's kind of that's kind of an
Yeah.
expensive cost. We actually got it a bit cheaper than 700. It was
Wow.
around about 400.
That so now we're talking about power to the people again, right?
Power to
And
the people.
yeah, and that's very exciting. So like, what potentially can be created here, and what you guys are looking to do is creating a torrent. Like I don't know how it will work exactly, but like a network that could talk to each other and use each other's bandwidths and so on to use all these models and everything and you're actually doing it decentralized, not with these massive data centers that a lot of
Mhm.
these AIs, like including Google, including Chat, Grok, all these major
Hmm.
AIs that are out there for the public. Like now we're actually creating a real AI that is not censored. And so what's interesting about that is that you're actually creating an AI that automatically gives you the power to ask it different things.
Yeah.
And I know that they're worried about like what's your worry or kind of idea about okay, so we're doing these decentralized AI kind of build now and trying to make it work, but what is there any worries about like AGI, artificial general intelligence, like where they actually become almost like sentient? Like, is there any worries that the system will become Skynet and
No,
destroy
well,
us
I
all?
think there's yeah, people have watched the movies and think about Skynet and stuff like that, but then again, we can just pull the plug on them.
Yeah,
So that's the weakness. We can always just pull the plug. And
yeah,
I think the way it's going is, yeah, if you let a computer do what a computer does, it makes decisions in a very methodical, logical way. It doesn't have heart to it. So always going to need the human involved in
yeah.
the process to make ethical decisions. I'm not saying computers are unethical, but they don't understand the difference, you know. So if you said, "How do we solve all problems?" and it would just be like, "Okay, we'll destroy the world eventually," because that would fulfill the goal, the requirements. But you gotta say, "Okay, without
Yeah,
minimizing,
as long as the AI don't have access to anything, or you tell it
yeah, as long
that
as you
it can
can't
do something.
execute,
Yeah,
yeah, as long as you can't, when you start giving it execution capability, then it kind of has a bit of a problem."
yeah.
But I don't think, yeah, as long as you don't teach it what human beings are, or then that we should be safe. But I don't think that we're going to have robots marching down the street one day saying "Kill all humans, kill all humans."
Let's hope not, anyways.
Although, did you see Elon Musk's Tesla robot? I desperately want one of them.
Yeah, it's pretty
I just
interesting
want
that
three of them.
project that Tesla has with their robot. It's actually a very cool looking robot. It's the by far the nicest. Well, actually, there's a really nice humanoid one. I forgot who. is it Boston Dynamics that had that girl like with the that have all the facial expressions? And I just saw a video yesterday where they show her a mirror and she's like she's looking at it and like you know uh
I'm just checking now.
yeah, I forgot what she's called, but she has been like interviewed on me like by media and all these places. But it's some very interesting stuff. But again, the way we uh create a freer society is by giving people access to these technologies and not letting them be on top, because that's usually what it is. It's just like stuck on
Mm,
top. What ends up happening with a lot of projects in the early stages, they get hijacked,
mm,
like Facebook, they got Incutel funding at an early stage, certain intelligence agency via like VC firm. And
mm,
so it's always a way to kind of corrupt people. But with this technology, what we're doing is we're going to be given people the actual files and everything. And then it becomes Wild West at that point where the people are very afraid of like that people are insane and there's going to be so much evilness, going around as soon as you let people do whatever they want kind of thing. But
mm,
the humans are kind of civilized in a way as well. Like that we're not completely insane. Like we know how to govern ourselves if you let us. I know the elites on top doesn't like it that we could self-govern ourselves because they think we're dumb peasants and that we should control and they know what's better for us. But I think the only way we can have a freer world is by giving the power to the people to be able to use these things.
it's inevitable at the end of the day that like we started out with an idea. It used to be like I'm from the UK, so
Yeah,
and England more particularly, but we started out with like a feudal system,
mhm.
and then on the age of kings, and then people got fed up with that model. So we developed parliaments, which at the time was much better than having a king who just had complete
It was good
authority over
initially.
everyone.
It was good initially. It was a great idea initially, and then
Yeah,
goes
and then
yeah, and then you have all the crazy people coming to the top.
yeah,
Uh,
and then you realize, yeah, all the crazy people, like as they say, there's only two substances that float in the world, two substances that always float to the top. One of them's cream, the other one's not. Um, I'm trying to be
yeah,
polite for your podcast here, and
yeah,
um, that's what's gone on now. And I think the age of government sort of coming to the end. It's like
yeah.
people like because it's always the wrong people who get to the top.
Yeah, yeah, every
Um,
time, and but it's also the political structure of that governance structure.
yeah,
Like, if you could create something that, like, I work with a guy. His name is Ed Griffin. He has an idea. He doesn't like the word govern at all because it means that you govern. That you're being, you're under the thumb of government. He actually, what he calls his system is a protectorate, and it's basically
yeah,
just there to protect the rights of the people, and
yeah.
that's it. No, no more rights. Every human being gets to, interact with each other and be like, hey, I like this, I like that. Uh, People think that that's very chaotic, but we actually work like that a lot of times throughout history. Republics started that way, then they turned into democracies, then democracies elected totalitarian, tyrannical people, and then you had totalitarianism at the end. And so people like the small governance structures at the start. They're great, fantastic, but then people get lazy over time. And so you need kind of that the part of it, like giving people the idea of a decentralized system, and also by decentralizing the internet itself, the way we communicate, you will then decentralize and give people ideas that be like, oh wow, we could actually, we don't need these big centralized structures anymore. We could actually
Yeah.
communicate and freely interact with each other without any central authorities that tells us what we can't or we cannot do. And I think we're very scared of. We've been really, told hard that government, government, government is the only way, that we could survive on this earth, or else it's just pandemonium and it's Mad Max scenarios. But if you look at a big crisis that would happen, I like to study natural natural disasters. And one
Mm.
thing that I find, everybody's like, oh, it's going to be pandemonium. But when you actually study natural disasters, people come together for crying out loud
Yeah.
in communities or whatever, and they actually work it out and figure out how to deal with, terrible disaster that might have killed a whole bunch of people. And they're trying to work their way through it as a society, but as individuals in that society, not as the collective, that is there, like Hillary Clinton's idea. So like you don't own your kids, the government runs you, like tells your kids what to do. Your parents,
Mm.
you're just like basically vessels of like breeding for for the tax base basically. So I think with all this totalitarianism on the lurking around us and really right in our faces, and a lot of people are getting fed up with everything being controlled. I think some people have given up, but I think if we give these tools out to people, these truly private and decentralized options, I
Mm.
think it could be a renaissance for humanity, I think, because think of the ideas and everything that is not going to be controlled, by central authorities like the central health authorities or educational authorities. Think when people start thinking and tinkering by themselves with these things, what they could suddenly you get like inventors coming up from just regular blue collar workers that don't you
I've
would
got the
never
idea.
think that they would do anything because they don't have a degree or anything. Like the amount of intelligence that's out there, and this is what's great. The central planners say like, also you need central planning because like people don't know what to do. And some of these bozos that are up there, in central banks or in government, thousands of people, they think that they're smarter than the what I call the free market. And the free market is actually every human being on earth. That is the free
Yeah.
market. It's actually everybody interacting with each other voluntarily. But now, currently, we have a lot of central authorities that are controlling everything. They're controlling ideas. They're controlling, your behavior and everything. And if you can actually give that back to people with technologies like that, I think that's going to be super powerful for the future. And I think a huge game changer for we could probably rescue well, it's not going to be the internet anymore. It's going to be the Outernet that will
Yeah. Yeah.
develop out of it potentially. And so it's very exciting times, I think. I think we're facing some very dangerous times, but there's also during dangerous and devastating times of these systems. You got to remember during the Great Depression, a lot of the top companies in the US before they now are become too bloated and massive, they were actually created in the Great Depression during the
Yeah.
worst of times. And so these ideas are coming, when we really need them. And they will be under the surface and smolder and like develop and then suddenly catches fire, the
Mm.
smaller, and then it turns into a gigantic fire around the world, not the one that the global warming crazies are talking about, but the actually the fire of freedom around for people, which is very exciting. So, any last thoughts, James? Or maybe this is a better question before we go to that. Is there any other projects that we missed out on that you guys are playing around with? Is there anything else that we didn't? Because I know there's
I think
always
we should
something.
leave that till next time. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, because yeah, I don't want to let the cat out the bag too early. But
No.
yeah, even though it, as I said before, that the dot in the middle stuff that was very small dot, and then all these other ones appeared
Yeah.
afterwards. Well, honestly, there's much more dots to go um, on the flow chart. So yeah, this is only the very very early stages of it, and
Yeah.
we basically anticipate like the way without sounding arrogant, without sounding too proud of our own project, um, we see the blockchain as just obviously one small part of the decentralized network.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not trying to say that it's the blockchain small. Everybody knows the blockchain is absolutely huge. We're just trying to open people's eyes to how big the decentralized network is, and basically how the central planners of the internet have been pulling the wool over people's eyes for a long time.
Yeah.
And this is going to be one of those projects. It's going to not get out of hand, but it's going to um, run away with us. It really is. Where we're just starting something off. We're not going to
Yeah.
be
Yeah,
we're not
because
central planners. We're just starting things off here. We're just pulling the pin on this.
yeah, and basically, I think like we're at the stages of like early internet. Well, actually, at the stage when YouTube initially was created, I think we're back there at this
Yeah,
time where you had those platforms getting developed, and actually, what ended up happening over time is that those platforms developed and it gave people free speech. And the freedom of sharing information, and then it got out of hand because they knew too much, and then they had to censor everything because they had the power to it because we didn't think in the way of centralization when we built the initial internet.
mm,
Well, we thought in those ways, sorry, and so now we're trying to reignite the flame of the early internet days, where
yeah,
this is the time to rebuild the whole structure of the world and create a decentralized heaven for people
absolutely.
that you could really be allowed to do things and that you're not currently allowed to by our government. And we're not talking about murdering someone or things like that, but actually being a free human being, being able to share free thought and ideas with everybody else and play around it's I think decentralize everything. I think that is the future, and I think we're
In 10 years' time, we're going to look back and see this as the dark ages of the internet
yeah, yeah,
when
exactly.
people were censored. You know, the way we look back on history and see how people were censored, bullied, pressured. Even like remember, well, doing history class and on World War One, and if you were a young person who hadn't got signed up to go to war, then people would chase you down the street with a white feather, calling you a coward because you didn't want to go. And that we're sort of living in those ages now because, oh, you don't believe in this XY cause or you don't believe in that. You must be a terrible person. It's always a personal attack on the character.
Yeah, or denier, is the worst
Yeah,
word we could use, right? And so yeah, no, we're definitely at that place where like we've hit kind of the start of the dark ages. It started really with the early censorship days in 2015, 16. I think that's when it really started to happen like big time at a big scale. And so I think that the only way to fight back for people is to let people share information freely again, and that's what this is doing. The only
yeah.
way they could stop this is shutting all internet down. So yeah, good luck with that. They were actually, by the way, they were talking about that during their it was like it was a meeting between the John Hopkins Institute and who was it? Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Had a something called Event 201 before the
They
breakout.
do have a
You
kill
know,
switch.
and so they were talking about, like, should we shut off the internet? Oh, wait, that would cause like mayhem, and we probably would be toppled as government. And that probably might be right because we're very dependent on the internet right now,
Yeah,
and shutting it off means you're gonna shut off all commerce, you're gonna shut off all communication. Uh, I just don't see that happening anymore.
yeah.
It's just like an atrocious idea that maybe at the darkest time when we just well maybe they're as dumb as they will just nuke each other and we're all gone, but the outernet will survive, and this one guy, he will find outernet file somewhere that it was saved, and he will go on with the outernet, will come out of the apocalypse not.
Yeah, people can download it just to keep a copy of it because
Yeah,
the way this technology works, um, it's out the box now. The toothpaste's out the tube. You can't put it back in. So just as many people download and copy it. Even if Outernet disappears, the technology will still be there.
yeah.
So people will still be able to use it, and it will still be there long after we are gone.
Yeah, it's the same with Bitcoin, for example. Like you
Yeah,
basically just have if one or two people can save a copy of the blockchain, that's it. That's all you need.
and that's the
And
beauty about
yeah,
decentralization.
exactly. No, it's
See, with
so
centralization, you have to constantly keep effort in to keep it up and running. You have to have uninterruptible power supply systems. You have to have backup power systems. You have to have environmental controls. You have to have all sorts of people just monitoring, making sure it just stays just at the right. All the settings are right. With centralization, it's kind of hard to stop it,
Yeah.
and that's what I love about it.
No, this is very exciting, and I always get more and more excited every time we chat, James, and
So you've been absolutely
yeah,
great.
and
The dev team are always chatting and saying they were horrified when your channel disappeared, and and said, "John's our main customer. This is the guy we're building it for."
yeah, no, it's very exciting stuff, and you could actually check out some of the stuff if you go to Outer, as you can see above me here, Outer with two R's, .net. You can find some of the projects. If you actually go um to my web, like we added it onto my website for some fun,
Yeah,
and so people could play around with it. It's actually, well, at Outernet you also have the Rendezvous 1.0, that which is the video chat is available there. But you can go to my website, which is chat dot government is non-essential dot world. So chat dot government is non-essential dot world. And basically you could try to use the video platform as well, and try to just go in and check out the Metascape version. It is just a very basic version that's on the website available for you to just try. And I'm saying on the website, well, when you click on it and you share it with somebody else, you're connected. So there's no central server there. And so it's very, very exciting times. And I think the future is decentralization. And we're working really, really hard for every single human being on Earth to get our freedoms back from these totalitarian centralized structures that we've created over time. And I think it's coming. The time is coming. And we're going to fight back as hard as we really, really can. And any last words, James, before we get going here?
yeah. Please copy our software, especially if you're in a country that's run by a dictator or under tyranny. Please feel free to use our software.
Yeah, and
So yeah, they're the people we're aiming this for as well,
yeah,
and also
and
to protect our own freedoms in the Western world.
yeah, and this is
So
an
the Western
idea
Peninsula.
actually. Yeah, and actually today you could. I think, James, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna talk to a friend of mine. He's using an AI that could translate our voices into all kinds of languages, and so
Oh wow.
I'm gonna talk to him and get him to get this out in as many languages as we can, and then just spread it all over the internet. And we're gonna start some ruckus. But Klaus and the UN and all the elites up there, they're gonna wait for a fight, and it's gonna be very non-lethal, but it's gonna be lethal to their wealth and their control.
Yeah, every day we're just like, oh no, what have they done now? What have they done?
Exactly.
That's
But it
it.
was a pleasure chatting with you, James. Like, of course, we were working
We
together
could
as a
go, we
team
could
now.
talk like this all day. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how long we've been on now.
No, I think
I
it's
think
like close to 2 hours or something. So it's a great chat, and stay tuned, guys. We're gonna
it's been a
put
pleasure.
out a
Yeah,
lot
I'll wait to
more of
speak to you again.
these, and we're gonna get it going here. I think there's gonna be a lot of excited people wanting to join in and start programming and playing around and fooling around with everything. So very, very excited. Outernet with 2 hours. Outer outer Outerrnet. Check it out, and please get back to us. Feel free to contact us on the website, and just let's chat, and let's change our future here
Let's
to a
change the
really, really
direction of human
beautiful,
history.
bright place. And so I'm very excited about it. Thanks for hanging out with me today, James, and let's end it there.
Okay, bye for now.